Hello and welcome to the Power Pod. I'm your host, Matthew Cohen, and today I have the pleasure of welcoming Lubna Zaidi, a political commentator, a famous YouTuber, and previous star of the Apprentice TV show. Lubna, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
My pleasure. So, Lubna, I've really been looking forward to our chat today because of how relevant I think it is to the South African audience. Now, although, of course, you need no introduction in the UK, what's really interesting is that you've experienced a lot of things that South Africa is going through right now. And I think you have some very valuable insights on it. So, to provide a bit of context, South Africa's seen a rapid importation of radical Islam. The ANC-led government has been cozying up to the likes of Iran, distancing itself from the West, befriending Hamas. We've also seen how there's even a Hamas office in Cape Town. There's also a couple of organizations with ties to, or alleged ties, should we say, to the Muslim Brotherhood. And then, of course, there's a severe migration crisis whereby most recently a flight of Gazans arrived in South Africa, and the government, or rather the president, famously said that it mysteriously arrived and they had no prior knowledge and they do not know who these people are, yet they're in the country and they're going to investigate now. So needless to say, it's the beginning of quite a chaotic process. But Lubna, while South Africa seems to just be at the start of it, you've actually experienced this sort of a situation firsthand in the UK, and you've even been embedded in this kind of community. So before we get to that, could you explain to us, who you are, how you grew up, and what made you famous?
Oh, I don't see myself as a famous person at all. So I see myself as a concerned citizen. I'm a humanist. So for me, I believe in God, but so after God, for me, humanity is important, regardless of race and religion. So I was a candidate on The Apprentice in the UK in 2019. Now I'm a YouTuber. I've got 3 YouTube channels, and I have been on TV, and from time to time I come and I'm a political commentator, as well as other things that I've been doing. Like I've got a poetry book, I'm going to release a fiction book. But essentially, I'm a concerned citizen at the end of the day. So, and when we're speaking about migration, I'm actually part of this group of people, right? I haven't migrated myself, but my parents did, my grandparents did. So I almost am part of the problem. I don't like to see myself that way, but I am part of the problem, but I'm trying to be part of the solution as well. So I've been raised as a Muslim. My parents were born in Pakistan, so I have the Pakistani Indian heritage because my ancestors were from northern India. So my issue is, even when I was listening to you speak, is all of this just sounds like a self-inflicted, self-created issue. Whatever we're seeing in the Western world, whatever we're seeing in all these countries, this has been self-created by our governments. So, anything happening in the UK or in America or the Europe or Australia, this, I think we could have done more to counteract it. We need to be proactive and not reactive. What's been happening is for decades and decades and decades, we've been having these issues fester. We've allowed them to fester. And they've now snowballing out of control. Now that they're snowballing, now we're noticing and saying, oh, do you know what? Stop the snowball. But the snowball is so big now that if you try to stop it, you will get crushed. That's the problem that we're having. And of course, each country is at a different level of how big the snowball is. If the snowball is still small in certain countries, you can still stop it with your foot, with your hand, right? If you imagine that, right? So it's snowing. In some of these other countries, it's become like a massive, the size of a building. Like you will get crushed if you come in front. So this is serious business, I would say. And I know that we're talking about it and there's other YouTubers speaking about it as well. But I don't think we've got time. Time is ticking. It's a time bomb, essentially. Time's ticking. We can speak about it and we can discuss it. I want to see some action because if not, it's going to impact all of us. So yes, I've been raised as a Muslim. I do come from a liberal family. However, I would say even I've been indoctrinated. So the way Muslims are raised in general, we are raised to be intolerant, right? Because the way we're raised is this is haram, this is halal. You have to say peace be upon him when you say the Prophet's name. You have to wash your hands before you touch the Quran. The Quran has to be put at the higher place. And I'm not saying those things are bad, but when you have heavy indoctrination, like very, very heavy, you will burn in the hellfire if this happens. Like there's a lot of scaremongering and you are grown up in fear, essentially. So for other people outside of this religion, that's not normal. Whereas for Muslims, that's kind of normal. Even if you're liberal, this is the normal upbringing, very, very intolerant. Now, I was still liberal from a liberal family, but there are other people who are not from a liberal family. They're even more closed. They're even more intolerant. They're even more everything. And then when you have these people in their what we see in the UK now are ghettos, where there are communities who are just in that community. There are ghettos. So when you're in that little echo chamber of yours, you're only hearing viewpoints of your own people like you, right? The intolerant people. That can really, really make things worse, 10 times worse. And then you have the Middle East, where the wars have been happening. And of course, for Muslims, what's happening in Gaza is a sore point. And then they're in their little echo chamber. They're already very intolerant. Okay. And then they're speaking to each other. And then it's going crazy now. There are lots of radicals here. There are some that are born in the UK, for example. And there are others that we're importing more and more. And what's also happened is it's all complicated because we've got the internet as well. So 50 years ago, there was no internet. So if I'm living in the UK, I'm not necessarily speaking to someone closely who's in Pakistan or America or Australia, right? Or South Africa.
Right.
It's literally you would send letters, right? Or there would be like a telegram or a phone call or something in those times. But now it's like we're speaking right now, right? And I can see you, I can hear you, we can speak for as long as we want. We're not thinking about it's going to cost more money if we speak for long. And then there's propaganda videos that the internet is being used for as well. And there's so much going. Then there's AI as well. Like it's all going very crazy. So it's getting out of control. So and that is my fear now, that whatever we're facing now is something we've never faced before, because the technology that we have is being used by the people that we think are the bad guys, right? So in my mind, I don't see Muslims as the bad guy, because of course my whole entire family is Muslim and there are some good people, and there are good Muslims as well. Like we saw on Bondi Beach, there was a Muslim who, helped, and he almost died helping other people. That's why I'm never going to demonize all Muslims and the whole of Islam and all that kind of stuff. However, that's not to say that we need to be honest. There are issues, right? And I think sadly what happens in this kind of situation, people are becoming extremists. People outside of Islam and outside of being Muslims are also becoming extremists. Like you're getting more extremist Hindus, you're getting more extremist Christians, you're getting more extremist Jewish people, because they feel like they're going to have to become extremists to fight extremists in Islam. So, but my view is that I don't want to demonize all people. There are good Muslims, but I just want these good Muslims to speak up, because I think that instead of demonizing them, they can help us fight the radicals. There's more than 1.5 billion Muslims, and they're going to grow, right? I'm a realistic person. I am someone who I pride myself as being rational and realistic. If you be realistic, whether we like it or not, whether you believe in any of these religions, whether it's Hinduism, Christianity, Islam, or anything else, these religions have been here for thousands of years. They're going to stay. You and I will be dead in 100 years' time. Islam will still be here. Christianity will still be here. So I'm just very, very realistic that instead of demonizing a whole group of people, because there are so many of them, 1.5 billion plus, I would rather work with them to tackle the issue instead of just saying they are the problem, because that can only lead in one direction, and that will be where people are spilling blood. Then that's what's going to happen if we demonize all people. So, and when I say them, because I'm not religious, sometimes I end up saying them instead of us, because I feel a little bit like an imposter, like, because for some Muslims I'm not Muslim enough, right? Like I'm not wearing a hijab, I'm not religious, and I'm openly saying I'm not religious. But yeah, it's very, very complicated. I'm a very concerned citizen. I feel like in 10 years' time, my children will be older, they will be adults. And I am very concerned about how people perceive Muslims, how people perceive anyone with a migrant background, how people perceive people from my kind of background in terms of my heritage, in terms of the Pakistani heritage, because of the grooming gang scandal, right? So in 10 years' time, I will be, if I'm still alive, an elderly lady. My children will be older, and there's no point in me speaking up then. I feel like if I speak up now that I'm young, hopefully we can try to course correct. And, I feel the trajectory in the direction we're going in, especially in UK, is bad. if I try to steer the
Right.
ship a little bit on track, then at least in 10 years' time, I can say to my kids, look, I tried doing something, versus me just sitting on my butt. And there are so many things. We're in a mess in the UK. It's all self-created. We can deport people. Why are fake asylum seekers coming here? Why are we giving them accommodation? Why are we giving them the passport? If they're fleeing the home country, why are they going on holiday to that same country? I mean, it's ridiculous. And
Right.
if
Right.
we're not able to control the people that are coming into this country, I mean, I'm sorry, how do we not know they're not bringing weapons here? Like, can you imagine all the other stuff they're bringing, like drugs and all the other stuff? So the
Exactly.
situation is out of control. And I mean, in Australia, for example, I thought that the gun control and all that is quite good. And we saw what happened, right? It took two crazy nutcases to do what they did a couple of days ago, on Bondi Beach. Now, I'm just thinking, literally in the UK, we're all waiting, sadly. Although it's Christmas season, we're just waiting. We're on edge and waiting for something like that to happen in the UK. Because there are nutcases. How do we not know
Well, it
they're not
already
going to do that?
happened at the Manchester synagogue,
Yeah, Manchester synagogue and on the train as well, 7-7 that happened where 4 people blew
of
themselves
course.
up. And, so we've had and even recently in the synagogue where the guy just turned up, Muslim guy, extremist, and then he started stabbing people, so it's not, and then in Germany as well as at the Christmas market was last year where
Correct.
that happened. So, and there's a few plots that have been foiled. So this is an ongoing increasing threat that we have. And we need to stop pretending. What I get annoyed with the Muslims is when they are crying Islamophobia, when they need to wake up and smell the coffee, read the room, listen to what people are saying. No one's out to get all Muslims. And if they are out to get all Muslims, it's because you guys are looking complicit. Because instead of trying to tackle the extremists within your religion, you're saying, oh, Islamophobia, oh, poor me. And I'm so tired of their crap. I'm tired of their nonsense.
Right. But
It's really starting to really annoy me. And a lot of these people, instead of trying to tackle the extremists, they will say, oh, there are extremists in all religions. Yes, they are. But how many Hindus are planning to, run over people in the Christmas market? Or how many Sikhs are planning to blow themselves up? Or how many, I don't know, atheists are planning to get a gun and just kill people for religious reasons? We need to remember there are extremists who have taken the religion to what the peaceful Muslims would say to a distorted view. And I get that, but fine. If you think that there are extremists and they're not following Islam properly, well, then why do you not teach them what the true Islam is, the peaceful version? They're not proactive. They're
right.
deflecting. Yeah.
But Lubna, what I'd like to know, just on that note, is could you give us a lay of the land? So we know that there's a very large Muslim population in the UK, right, as well as other European countries. But where do most of the UK Muslim population come from? And more importantly, what proportion would you say is radical versus moderate or mainstream?
So I don't know the stats, but my understanding is a lot of them do come from the Indian subcontinent, and I think it's Pakistan is the number one. And also in terms of asylum claims, one of the countries that claims the most asylum is Pakistan. When there's no war going on in Pakistan, and which again that really annoys me. I've visited Pakistan many times, so in terms of demographics, there is a huge Pakistani community. Now, having gone Pakistan several times on a visit there as a tourist, I know that how intolerant these people are, and people born and bred in Pakistan are very anti-Semitic. Okay,
Okay.
not just anti-Israel, because on their passport it does say that this passport is valid for every other country apart from Israel. They've got that on their passport written down. But I'm speaking about their anti-Semitic because each time they speak about, they're not speaking about Israel. They speak about Yehudi, which means Jewish. And even in
Similar to
Urdu,
the
there are
Arabic of Yahud.
yeah, Yehudi, exactly. So this is common where they've demonized essentially Jewish people. Each time they say Yehudi, 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 they've got all these conspiracy theories. So when these types of people are coming into the West, sadly, they need educating in terms of maybe in your country this was normal, and here, like in this country, it's anti-Semitic. Like you can't speak like that, and no one has had that conversation with them. No one. They've just come here as economic migrants. They're earning money. Then they're in their little echo chambers. They're mostly living in ghettos, right, with people of their own race and faith. And the obvious to them hasn't, it's not obvious to them some of these things. They need to be taught, but no one has the guts in terms of the government to have a chat with them. In terms of your question about the radicals, etc. So a lot of times when people quote how many radicals there are, they would say around 10 to 20%, right? Generally around the world. I don't know if there is a study on this and whether we know for sure what it is. The fact is, we're not going to be able to read people's mind. But for me, what my personal experience is that, okay, fine, just say 10 to 20% would be willing to be physical with us in terms of trying to kill us. That doesn't mean that the
Okay.
ones who are not planning to kill us are not dangerous, right? Because I would say, if I would have to divide it, I would say 20% are physically dangerous. They could cause us physical harm. And then around 60 to 70%, if I'm being honest, which I always am, 60, but again, this is subjective because I'm just giving my opinion. My opinion is
Well,
not
your
fact.
opinion is valid because you've dealt with it
Yeah.
firsthand.
So I would say there's around 60 to 70% who would verbally, they are dangerous in terms of either they are denying there's an issue by saying Israel's done it, someone else has done it, it's a false flag operation. I'm not saying that false flags don't happen. You know, I'm willing to accept, okay, sometimes it's someone else's fault. I'm not willing to accept every time it's a Muslim does something, it's a Muslim extremist does something, it's someone else's fault. So then there's a 60 to 70% who verbally are in their little echo chamber. They've got the victimhood mentality. They don't want to accept any responsibility. They could be hostile as well. Like in the UK, for example, they by saying kufr or kafir or demonizing people because of the race and religion, those kind of people I think are a massive issue. We have educated people as well, right, who are politicians in UK, for example, or who are social media influencers, and you can also tell they're quite extreme in their views. They're making things worse for Muslims. And so in terms of the peaceful, moderate, the true ones who get it, I would say it's around 10% max.
That's
I would
a very
say.
small population.
Yeah. So again, it depends on who you see as an issue. Do you only see those people as an issue who will cause you physical harm, or do you see the ones that don't get it, that there's an issue, as a problem as well? I see those people as a problem as well, but I'm willing to speak to those people. So that 60 to 70%, my aim is to try to enlighten them, and so they can help us tackle the 20%. That's what I'm trying to do. That's why I'm not going to demonize all Muslims and all Pakistanis and all immigrants. Let's work with these people, try to wake them up. I literally feel it's like enlightenment. Like they need someone to light the candle in their brain, right? The spark. So I'm trying to be the spark that inspires them and makes them think a different way. Because I know that they're in the little echo chamber. So from my perspective, what I'm trying to do is just help them see a different way. I'm not saying that I'm right. I'm saying, have you thought about looking at things from this perspective? And what I'm hoping is, if I can inspire even 10 people, they will go on to inspire another 10 people, and that's how we're going to start a movement. That's my idea. Yeah.
But do you see any success on the ground already? Do you already see people changing their minds?
The problem I'm having is, yes, I have influenced quite a lot of people, and I do get messages from people who are saying that, oh, do you know what? First, I used to hate you, and actually now that I'm keep listening to you, you've actually changed my mind. So it is taking time. But my issue is that when we keep having an influx of more and more people, so even if I'm able to inspire, just say 10 people, but then we've got all these hundreds of thousands of people coming in. So it's like one step forward, 10 steps back. One step forward, 10 steps back. It needs to be the opposite, right? So, and I can't do it by myself. And people like me don't get that much support because I get bashed from all sides. I'm not Muslim enough for the Muslims. I'm not ex-Muslim because some people want me to be ex-Muslim. Otherwise, they're not going to trust anyone who calls himself a Muslim. Then I've got the people on the left who will try to silence me instead of the Muslims who are obvious, like evidently Muslim. And then we do have those people who just, it doesn't matter how I am as a person. There are some people who are truly racist and who truly just, they don't like anyone who's from the outside. So I get bashed from all sides. It's quite difficult doing what I'm doing. Yeah.
No, I can definitely imagine that. But this kind of throws me back to what's going on in South Africa, right? So something that I see a very strong correlation is that you explained that to a very large extent. So you said around 10% of Muslims in the UK, the way you see it, are non-radicalized. They're sort of mainstream, no violent rhetoric, if we can call it that, right? And something that's quite worrying on the South African side is that for the longest time, so the Muslim community as well as the Jewish communities are quite old in South Africa, and there's never really been any sort of political differences for a very long time. And what's actually quite interesting is the people live quite close together to one another. But there's been a little bit of a, let's call it a problematic wave of incidents in recent times. So, for example, there was a pro-Hamas rally in the city of Cape Town. Now, the reason why I say pro-Hamas and not pro-Palestinian is because the leaders of the rally were chanting, "We are Hamas." That was the chant they were using, and there were thousands of people who showed up. And I remember just in my youth, you'd have things such as the BDS movement, the boycott, divestments, and sanctions. But the people there, as much as they were anti-Israel or anti-Jewish in their rhetoric, it was never quite as explicit. Like they never ever said, "We support Hamas." You know, it would be more of that thing of we're unhappy with Israel, whereas they wouldn't really talk so much about Hamas. But now all of a sudden you're seeing these like little sparks of radicalism coming through. So yeah, I guess my question to you, Lubna, is do you think that when it's still in its infancy at this stage, do you think that this is something that's preventable, that the spread of extremism is preventable? And if so, how does one go about that?
Again, because the situation in the world is different now in terms of having the internet, and then now AI is coming in, and technology is progressing. We're so linked now globally; everyone is linked. That it's going to be difficult to disentangle ourselves from the situation, if I'm being honest. Because the actions we all need to take are going to be extreme actions, i.e. banning countries and putting more regulation and restrictions in place in terms of religious restrictions and those kind of things. And no one's willing to do that in any of the countries, because the existing Muslims who, for example, who are living already in these countries, they will kick up a fuss, and their percentage is not even high. So even with a minority percentage, they will kick up a fuss. And that's my issue. If we don't do things now, take the difficult steps now, when these numbers double, I'm sorry, there's nothing you can do. So sadly, it's come to my attention that the last day, apparently in Bangladesh, which is a Muslim country. So Pakistan and Bangladesh used to be one country, although they've in the middle is India when the partition happened. But now it's just Bangladesh. So that's a Muslim country. And what's come to my attention is that recently, in the last day, there's been a lynching of a Hindu man who was apparently, there's alleged blasphemy allegations on him. And he was beaten to death, and then his body was tied to a tree, apparently, and he was set alight. And his burning body has been filmed. Okay, so in my mind is, if in any of these Western countries you witness either online or yourself the first lynching, the first mass lynching because of blasphemy, is the game's over then in that country. They've lost to radical Islam. Once the first lynching happens, that is a sign, because that is so messed up. It happens in Pakistan all the time. You don't even have to have done blasphemy. If you're accused of blasphemy, no one's going to sit there and check whether you did it or not. You've been accused of blasphemy, a mob will come, third world mentality, right? The mob will come and you're dead. And they will keep stabbing you even after you're dead. And I've seen these videos, it's disgusting, where they're saying, "Oh, join us in, and the guy's dead and he's beheaded. Join us in and stab him, because then you'll go to heaven." I've heard this kind of stuff. Like, it's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. This is a mentality of people coming here where we just see what we just saw on Bondi Beach, father and son, one of the most sacred relationships there could be between a relationship between a parent. Right? I've got children as well. I couldn't even imagine me encouraging this kind of behavior and doing it with my child. I mean, that's so sick. I can't even think about it. I don't even want to speak about it. So that is psychopathic, mental, crazy on a different level. And that's the mentality of the people that lynch people. So in Bangladesh, Pakistan, and probably, in areas of India as well, and other Muslim countries, this is normal, lynching people. So that is my fear, that the Western countries don't understand that the people that you are allowing in your country, they do not share the same values as you. Don't think you're not going to get lynched. They're very, very intolerant. They're just waiting for the numbers to increase, and then the behaviors will be the same. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. You have evidence online of who these people are, and you're not believing them. Okay, then wait for the lynching. Then once the lynching is done, or one person in any of these Western countries, the game's over. There will be more lynchings because it's going to encourage more behavior like that. It will set a precedent. We need to stop this. The more the numbers, this is no joke. So whoever's listening to this is no joke. I'm not out to get Muslims. I was raised as a Muslim, and like I said, I will never demonize all Muslims and the whole of Islam, because there are good people, there are good interpretation, like peaceful interpretations of Islam as well. But the radicals are an issue, and the enablers of the radicals are an issue, whether they are Muslim enablers or non-Muslim enablers. Right? We've got people on the left who just don't get it. So the whole world is in this, because people were telling me to move to Australia. Oh, do you know what? Australia's a decade behind UK and Europe. You know, nothing's happening over there.
I used to hear the same thing.
Radicals. And I'm like, I've made a short on my YouTube channel saying, please don't tell me to come to Australia after what's just happened. And then I've seen other videos of Australia where people are celebrating 7th October. And I'm like, oh my God, with all due respect, I've been Australia twice. I think it's a beautiful country, but you guys have issues of your own, it seems, right? The threat has come to your doorstep as well. So,
of course.
And, you know, to get into Australia is more difficult, I think, because they're surrounded by masses of water. We're surrounded by water, but it's easier because we're near France. So, yeah, these countries.
You get those tugboats coming in.
We can't do anything. That's the thing. We need to take action. I'm not convinced that the government can't do anything. I just feel like they've allowed this to happen. Why they're allowing this to happen is your guess. You can guess, I can guess. It's all speculation, but it just seems as if this is planned, or is it incompetence, or are they planning this? Like, what's going on?
Of course.
Yeah, I think people don't understand the threat at all. They think it's some kind of joke, or it's not going to happen in the UK because English heritage and British Empire. Yeah, those days are gone. We're in a different world. We've got the internet. We've got AI. We've got people coming on a boat. We've got crazy people coming on. So yeah.
No, of course. And it really just brings it back home because, as I explained, so actually, believe it or not, a lot of the migrants who come over, it's not just from other African countries. A lot are Pakistani as well, in South Africa, believe it or not. And then there's also this issue of the Palestinian, the Gazan flights. And I actually said this in a previous video of mine. I said, for all we know, every single one of those people are innocent people that just want to rebuild their lives. That's possible. But they could also all be dangerous people who have a dangerous ideology. That's also possible. But until you do your homework and until you actually vet people before they come in, well, you're never going to know. And it's always a risk. So what you're saying, yeah, I couldn't agree more on that. But Lubna, just to sort of summarize the solution, would you say that primarily it will be the government's responsibility to basically curb this, that we can't de-radicalize the people within until we stop having the other new arrivals coming into the country?
The thing is, it's a bit like chicken and egg situation, because we can't also wait for the boats to stop, for example, in the UK to take other action. We need to do things simultaneously. We need to stop the boats, and we need to sort the people out that are in this country. We need to deport people. We need mass deportations of the wrong type of migrant, and just apologize to them. Look, sorry, we gave you the passport. Do you know what? You're not fit for this country, and you're going to have to leave. We're going to have to do that. We're going to have to stop the boats and take action like this. And then we're going to have the rules and regulations in place, because the fact is, at the end of the day, the elected governments are the ones who we have elected to do this for us. And they are the only ones with power and authority. And individually, if we start becoming, what can we do? People become vigilantes then, don't they? So if you leave it to the citizens, they will become vigilantes. And I'm sure no one wants that. All mass protests, like we saw protests and riots in the UK. So then, if you leave it to the people, then they're going to sadly end up maybe thinking they're going to have to take these actions. So the government needs to do its job. And if they don't, sadly, there is always an uprising in this kind of situation. Yeah.
Of course. So with that all in mind, Lubna, is there any sort of parting advice or perhaps any kind of message that you'd like to share with viewers, people who are watching this, who might be really affected by what we're talking about here?
I think everyone needs to wake up and smell the coffee, be a realist and be proactive. If you don't speak up now, you don't count. I'm sorry. In 10 years' time, when things are worse, don't sit there and complain and say, oh my God, this happened, because there were plenty of signs that this is happening. You just chose not to speak up. So, all of us have the courage to speak up. No one's asking you to become an extremist or say something so audacious, or crazy on the internet or online where it's going to get you into trouble. But you can voice your concerns in a civil manner. That could be a starting point. Have the courage to voice your concerns in a civil manner. Use your social media. Write to your local MP. You can take those types of actions, because if you don't complain in 10 years' time when we have hit the point of no return. Yeah, that's all.
Right. Clear, concise, and to the point. For all of those watching, I just want to remind you all, as Lubna explained, she has her YouTube channel, Candid with Lubna. Please make sure to subscribe to it if you'd like to hear even more of this important topic being discussed. And yes, Lubna, it's been wonderful speaking to you. Certainly insightful. I hope that the audience found it insightful as well. I thank you for your time. All right. Well, that's all we have time for today. If you enjoyed this chat, please remember to subscribe to the channel and consider joining, become a member of the Power Club for some extra perks and benefits, the link to which is right below. Until next time, I'm Matthew Cohen, and this is the Power Pod.